Hey everybody, it's Jordan and Demi, and we are here with OK Go's Damian Kulash. What's going on, Damian?
Not much. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Demi really loved the new video. So Demi, why don't you kick it off with the video?
So where did we get the concept? Because you guys are known for your videos. Um, how about this concept?
Well, the concept for the song it came from my kids.
No
It's
way.
it's all about how having kids changed my understanding of love. That a world that I have inhabited my whole life suddenly got so much bigger. I don't know if you've had that dream. I think everyone has, where you're like back in your childhood home, and all of a sudden, like everything's normal, but there's this one extra door, and it leads to like an airport or a cathedral. Some massive weird space that you've never seen before, but it's really familiar somehow. That is what having kids did for me to the idea of love. Like I've been, I've loved so many people in so many ways, and still having kids just open the whole universe up again. And that's what that song is about. And and while cleaning up after those kids, because I have twins and they're 6 years old, and they never clean up after themselves.
That's sick.
Yeah, exactly. It is the other kind of sick. It's a sickness that they can't pick up after themselves. I
Yeah.
will I will I will tease them. I will tease them on my own private time.
Mm.
They I was picking up their toys next to a mirror, and one of the toys had a mirror on it, and I saw that that infinite reflection thing that happens when you get two mirrors next to each other, and it just struck me as the perfect symbol for this song, and for this that it's a kind of visual metaphor for the same feeling, which is just two such simple things come together and infinity explodes between them. And I love it. I love it. It's so exciting.
Wait, so when did this kind of revelation happen in your head? Was it when they were first born, like when you first saw them,
The the
or
the
later on?
the revelation about love.
About
Yes, that
Oh,
came from your kids.
it is ongoing. I mean, I think I first was able to sort of put it into words about 6 months or 9 months after they were born, because the first 6 or 9 months, especially with twins, your brain is just mush. Like all you're doing is trying to keep them alive, and you don't ever sleep, and you're like, and um, after a little while, as you start to learn to sleep again, and they start to learn to sleep for the first time, you can start thinking about the experience you're having. And even then, it's still like having kids is it it all gets erased so quickly, because the first year of their lives is the most amazing thing that's ever happened, and then it gets erased by the second year of their lives, which is even more amazing, and it kind of keeps doing that to you. But I do know that prior to my kids being born, I was aware of a certain um, adultness to myself that I didn't like, if that makes sense. A sort of
Mm.
jadedness, and a sort of like, yeah, we could do another record. I don't know, we could do another video. I mean, it's just sort of like it becomes a job. All the stuff you love becomes a job because you've made it a job, and there's there's nothing more special than being able to like chase the thing you love for a living. But it is a job. It is real work. And it's easy to let the work part of it kind of take over and go like, yeah, well, now I'm going to go make a rock and roll song. Now I'm going to go make a rock and roll video. Okay. And then when you experience life in that fresh way again, and realize that just the a ball falling from waist height to the floor is an unbelievably magical thing, because look at that, gravity exists,
mm.
and you're able to be surprised by how beautiful and crazy the world around you is again. It does amazing things. It does amazing things to your brain.
I feel
Yeah.
inspired. I feel inspired, and I feel inadequate not being a father at this point. So
Well,
mm,
then I would also tell you that the flip side of all of this is that the world is so screwed right now, and I feel almost guilty bringing kids into it, because it is a horrible thing we've done to it. And so this whole album that we are putting out, that we've just put out, is it's like it's that split screen right there. Is like I've never felt more alive and more inspired by the world around me, and also more anxious and more worried and more ashamed of what humans have done to the planet. And it is there's no there's really no way of justifying the two sides together. It's just like it's it's shocking what we are able to live through and what we have done.
Very true. Well put. Well put. So at this point, you've done you're as Demi pointed out, everyone knows you for your videos, and the thing I want to know is, since as time has gone on and you've gotten bigger, I'm sure bigger budgets, do you have a team that sets everything up, like, or did you personally set up the Rube Goldberg machine? Like, how much help do you guys get in terms of crew and putting those things together?
We get a lot of help. We do not have a set team, and no, our budgets unfortunately have not gotten that much bigger. A little bit bigger, but usually because we've found partners who are willing to work with these things on us. We're not on a major label. So our budgets all come from ourselves.
Well, and part of the charm of the videos is that they're kind of look like they're not super fancy looking. It's the choreography that you're known for, not the.
We put all our money into the idea and into chasing the idea to as far as it can go. Like this might be a little bit abstract, but mostly film is about suspension of disbelief, right? That's like everybody knows that when you watch a scene between two actors talking, that when a camera is over one person's shoulder and then over the other person's shoulder, that like there actually are cameras there, right? Like you have to suspend your disbelief that and pretend this is just all one conversation, and we're so used to it that we do it all the time. In fact, we do it so automatically that in our videos, the part of the reason they're so frequently one take is because we're just trying to convince people, really hammer home, like, this really happened. It really happened, because we're so used to being in outer space in Star Wars that it's not that magical, right? Like it once upon a time, seeing stars across the screen, I'm sure in 1978 was like, wow, what is this? But we have now been in such amazing places, and especially with computer technology and CG and now AI, everything is possible, and it makes it so much less special because hard things don't exist. So we do this. We're really careful to make sure that what our videos say to you over and over again is like, this is the real thing. And to that end, yes, we have a lot of great collaborators. It is when we did the Rube Goldberg machine, which is now more than 10 years ago, we started out, we put a posting online. There's this sort of like nerd art board in LA that we put, and we were like, we're looking for one engineer who can help us build a Rube Goldberg machine. And 12 people got back to us as a unit, and we're like, we'll do it. And we're like, guys,
wow,
engineers.
I didn't know that there was a Rube Goldberg machine.
That's so LA. Like that's what I love about LA. Everyone's just like, let's make a song. Let's do this. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And we were like, but you're engineers. You should be able to tell the difference between one person and 12. We can't afford you. And they're like, no, pay us as one. So it started with 12 engineers, and by the end of it, we were over, I think, 60 people who had worked on it, because it was just fun. Like my dad came down, and everybody built it together. And that's been the model for a long time for us, is sort of like find the core group of collaborators. And they're usually not filmmakers. It's usually somebody who has some other skill, and help them see it from a side angle. Like that, instead of like a Rube Goldberg machine is a perfect example. Instead of designing for something to work, you design for it to feel precarious, right? A Rube Goldberg machine, for anyone who doesn't know the terminology, is like, a chain reaction, like a mousetrap machine. And if it doesn't feel like it's not going to work, it's just a machine. Like gears working with other gears isn't that spectacular, but gears doing something you don't expect them to, now that is amazing.
Wow. Now, I know the video for A Stone Only Rolls Downhill, there had to have been some tech involved in there, because you've got all these cell phones, and you've got, so how much of it was the CGI versus analog effects? What was the ratio there?
Oh, that was all analog. What we had to do was plan it out using CG. So the video is basically, it's 64 phones, I think, in the end, each with a single take on it, with a single one-shot video on it. But those videos often feature other phones inside them. So it's a video of a video. And we laid this whole thing out as a sort of digital mosaic. It was just like this array of them on the floor, and you watch it play out on that array. And planning it took months because it was our brains just weren't able to think through what, you know, if you want a face on the left side of the screen, how do you actually film that in 40 something parts to be on that side of the screen. So there was a lot of like testing stuff by doing it in CG. We would mostly use After Effects, and with these two super badasses who I worked with, Chris Bongiorno and Justin Clare. Justin's more of an editor. Chris was my co-director, and we just like spent about 2 months at my house just shooting stuff and testing things and putting it in there and being like, well, if we break it up into 2 parts, we can make it do this. And let's say this face turns that way and that face turns this way. And it was a lot of testing. And eventually we got down to a plan for what to shoot. And at that point, there's no CG. It's just shoot it.
Just putting the cell phones down at the right time, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, so we had we had like a warehouse location that we were shooting in. And so each frame of the sorry, not frame, that sounds like film talk. It is each phone, each cell that was in this big array, we had to have a plan for. And our guitarist Andy actually came up with like a big spreadsheet of like, at this moment you do this move and move left. At this moment you do this move and move right. And everybody had their kind of like marching orders, and we just went through and shot all 64 things.
Wow. Yeah, this is fascinating. I'm a film school guy, so this is fascinating. Go ahead, Demi.
Well, I mean, I was wondering because, like, did your love for visual making connected to the music that you're making, did that passion come after Here It Goes? Seeing it go from like this kind of low budget video to winning a Grammy for best video, like, is that where the passion started for this?
I can give you either a yes or a no answer, and they would both be accurate in different ways. I have been a visual person my whole life, and even I would say my love of music came, it like rode along the back of the fact that I was always drawing or painting as a kid, which meant I always had my Walkman on, and I would be listening to Prince or Depeche Mode or Run DMC, and that was my youth, and so my connection to music very much came from the fact that I was always painting. And around the time I was in college, it sort of flipped. In high school, it was like I grew up in Washington D.C. and the punk rock scene there was very, very inclusive and very collaborative and participatory. And so I like my social scene as a 15-year-old was to go to punk shows and put out records for my friends' bands and stuff. And that I was involved in it much more as a sort of like a way of connecting to other people than I was as a instrumentalist. I was never a great guitarist. And in college, I started to get just sort of annoyed with the pretenses of the visual art world that was sort of about writing an essay about what you had painted rather than just painting it. And so, whereas music to me, especially composing and recording music, had become very, I don't know, it was a new thing for me still. And I was really excited to learn it. So I really became more of a musician in my late teen years. So by the time the band is going, which is another 5 or 10 years after that, visual stuff had always been a part of my life. And I don't think we ever started the band thinking we would be filmmakers, like that we're going to be that video band or anything. It was more that in the late 90s, when you started a band, you assumed that what you were going to put out was CDs, put on shows, make recordings. That's what a band does. Every once in a while you get to make a video and some famous director comes and does it for you. We always made our own posters. We always made our own t-shirts. We always sort of played around the side. We were always making videos for our friends in the back of the tour van anyways. It just took a little while for us to realize that now this internet has allowed that to be a whole art form. When YouTube came along, it didn't just invite people to make stuff. It was sort of like all the stuff you're already making has a home now. So we started putting it out.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that the when you started really getting into those videos was kind of corresponded with the rise of YouTube. So I never put that together.
Oh yeah, we are so lucky. I mean, the treadmill video for "Here It Goes Again" was one of the first things that really went viral on YouTube, and I will be the first to admit that if you put that out now, it would get some hits, but it wouldn't be mega viral in the same way it was, because now there are whole Madison Avenue firms built on how you gamify TikTok and so forth. Like
And
there.
market.
Exactly. It's Wall Street has taken over, and so have influencers, and so like the kids making a video in their backyard that we were, um, obviously it's a whole different universe that we'd be up against now. But at the time, rock bands didn't make their own videos, and they certainly didn't do dorky things like jump around on treadmills. So it was an easy time.
Yeah, I was in like high school, middle school when you guys were coming up, and so that was sort of the tail end of when MTV, VH1 were still playing videos. VH1 played videos well into the 2000s, and I feel like you guys got a lot of airplay on VH1. But when you were making the doing the treadmill video with choreography, and it was taking all this time, were you doing it thinking that it was going to go on MTV and VH1 versus YouTube, or did you specifically make it with YouTube in mind?
The answer is neither, because we really didn't think of these things as like, there's no way MTV would play a homemade video like that. That's crazy, And I'll tell you what happened. You can tell I have a problem keeping things short. I talk too much and too loud.
Try to make
great for a podcast.
Better than the other way around.
In the very beginning of the band, we were invited to be on a TV show called Chicago in Chicago, where we started. All we knew was it was a TV show, and they wanted us to play, and they were like, "Wow, we're going to get to play music on TV." We had one song recorded at that point, and it was only a demo we made at our friend's college studio. And we were so excited about it, and then learned that they didn't actually. It was a public access show. Really cool thing where it's just like kids come in and dance with their babysitters and stuff, while like sock puppets, and it's like a dance. It was Soul Train, but on public access. Awesome show. But we had no idea that they wouldn't actually be able to record us playing, because like that's crazy. Like they would need a recording studio to be able to do that. So we were going to have to lip sync this thing, and we were like, well, oh man, we were just such snotty indie kids that we were like, look, if we're going to have to lip sync on TV, we're going to swing for the fences. And instead of doing pretending to play, we just came up with this totally absurd boy band dance. And that's what we did. Now, it was so popular that became part of our live show. It was sort of like a good way to mess with like hipsters in 2003, like everybody's shuffling their feet and smoking and trying to look cooler than everybody else. We just get up on stage and do this ridiculous boy band dance, and you kind of had to like either smile or leave. There's no in between, and that became so much a part of our ethos that when we put out our second album, we knew we needed a new song to do a dance to. A rehearsal video of that, A Million Ways is what it's called. A rehearsal video of that went viral before YouTube existed. It was a site called iFilm, and it was a download site. It was before streaming existed.
I remember iFilm.
So, right, you remember it? So, at some point our second album has now been out for some months, and we have a big video that has been was shot by Michel Gondry's brother, Olivier Gondry. It's big, like they didn't get it on MTV, but it was a big proper video, all that kind of stuff. And we realized that more people had downloaded that one video than paid for the CD itself. And this is before like there was such a thing as a viral hit, because there was no streaming yet, And we were like, okay, well, listen, we know that this is just a small, weird little contingent of our fan base that works in the IT department somewhere because they can download videos. But whoever they are, we're going to make another of these ridiculous dances for them. We didn't even really think of it as a video. It was just like, we'll make another ridiculous dance for them. That's what the treadmill video was. It was meant for those 300,000 people. And when we were finished with it, we were like, well, we might as well try out this new video streaming site. This guy, Chad at youtube.com, the founder of YouTube, had written to us going, hey, I saw that cool thing you made. Do you want to put it on my site? Like, that's how small YouTube was.
Wow.
And so we were like, well, we'll try your site, and it, and so there was no YouTube to think of when we made it. And we certainly didn't think MTV would ever play it.
Wow.
Surprised us more than
that's interesting because that kind of gives you the behind the scenes of like it wasn't just a vanity, like look how that's fuck with the medium kind of thing. There was actual like stuff going on. That's interesting. Speaking of which, obviously people want to talk about your videos all the time, but I like the music. What is it? Is that fine to like OK Go the band?
It's cool with me.
Yeah. Side note, I really love your cover of "This Will Be Our Year," the Zombie song, by the way. But
thanks.
Yeah. But when these videos were starting to take off, was there any concern that the videos were overshadowing the music?
A loud noise came on in here.
Okay, take your time.
I'm back. Loud noise is off. Was there any concern that the videos would overshadow the music? I'm fully aware that the videos are so much of our identity that is basically how people think of us. From the eye of the storm, however, I just get to make the stuff I want to make. There's like, it is sometimes annoying to see how sort of monomaniacal the world can be, like that they can only see the one thing. You've got this one big one-eyed monster that can only look at one thing at a time.
What a word. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I was hunting for myopic, and I was hunting for, what's a monster with one eye again? What's that called?
Cyclops.
Cycloptic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like that I am aware that like when we write a ballad, I think the best song on a new record is a really, really sad ballad. It will never be the single that people know. It's called "This Is How It Ends." I invite you to go listen to it, please. But it's not the one that's going to have the big upbeat video. It's not going to be the one that gets licensed for a car commercial. It's not going to be the one that takes over the world, because bands can only really be thought of as one thing, right? So, Elliott Smith, there's no such thing as a happy Elliott Smith song, right? You can't have a non-garage Strokes song, But from my perspective, I just want to be able to make those things and love those things. And if it's a little annoying that we're that video band, at least it means we get to keep being the band,
Yeah.
Well, there's no video without the music in the music video.
Yeah.
Well, also from a filmmaking perspective, I mean, I'm sure knowing you're a film school kid, there's almost no time when you get to make a film that's 3 minutes long and just go, how can I make the best 3 minutes possible? I'm not trying to sell the product. I don't have to like bridge the beginning of the movie with the end of the movie. I don't have to get the story arc to do this or that. I just want to make the most I want to make the most feeling that I can in 3 minutes. And it's a lot more like writing a song or performing or recording a song than it is other filmmaking in some ways, because all we're doing is like, when it hits the chorus, we want you to feel that surprise. Like when we get to the moment that opens up and it all feels wonderful, I want you to see it open up and feel wonderful. And I don't have to I don't have to rely on the last 2 seasons and make sure that the plot lines connect. I just have to make it go pow in your eyeballs. That's it. Mm-hmm. And there's almost no filmmaking that's allowed to do that, because it doesn't have a market, right? Like you can't sell it to an advertiser, and it doesn't belong on Netflix or in a movie theater. So we live in this one little bubble where we just get to make 3-minute art pieces, and like we have a perfect excuse. So I kind of couldn't be happier with being stuck in this little corner. as much as I understand the question, like, yeah, we're that video band, and probably my tombstone will read like treadmill,
Treadmill
you know?
guy.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, I do know of your band from Here It Goes song because and I do know the song before the video. I actually was reminded of the video when I went to go dig deeper into the band and the history and I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that video." But I actually do remember the song before the video. But I want to talk about the 2000s really quick because you guys shared touring dates with Death Cab for Cutie, Panic at the Disco. So how cool were the 2000s for you
What a time to be
guys?
alive.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome. The weird thing is, I think everybody feels that way about their teens and their 20s. You know, I'm like the 2000s, well, whatever. That was nothing compared to the 90s. You know, and people a little older than me are like 90s, please. The 80s were the best. You know, the 2000s were. I would say what was great about the 2000s compared to now is that all of our fears and anxieties were still so abstract. You know, there was still, yes, there was global warming and people should stop using so much plastic, but it wasn't like, like the worst we could do, some people could connect that to Katrina and be like, this is related to climate change, and other people, I don't know, and but like it wasn't like what we have now where there are climate disasters on a weekly basis and a president who pretends they're not happening. Like it is, our situation is so much more acute now than it was then. And so it was sort of the last time I can remember that it felt like the future was maybe going to be better than the past. And I always grew up with that. There was the Martin Luther King quote that the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Like that feeling that that like the good guys will eventually win, even if it takes a long time and it hurts along the way. That was the whole fabric of my youth and in my person. And I just don't know if I believe that anymore. At least it's a lot harder to believe now than it was then. It's hard for me to know what to teach my kids for that reason, And I think you were probably asking about the 2000s because of cool pop rock concerts, and I just took it into a very dark place. But I will say that like it did feel like, after the 2000 election, rest in peace, and after George W. Bush, things were dark. It was already pretty dark, but nothing nearly as bad as it is now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it's an interesting world. Someone who grew up, in the 90s, 2000s, like me, to have to see what it's become anyway. Speaking of, we'll get into some more bright. I want to talk. Speaking of film school, you did co-direct a real movie last year. In fact, we were scheduling. We were supposed to interview on that press cycle. Glad we can talk to you now. So you did the Beanie Bubble with your wife Kristen Gore as co-director. Did your I'm sure you've had this question asked a million times, but how much did your music video experience help with the feature film stuff?
It was that focus on a certain type of visuality was very, it was indispensable. I mean, there's no way I could have directed a film without having that sort of flowing through me. However, the rest of it was very, very different. The crew on an Apple feature film gets up to being 500, 600 people at some points. Like you're running a medium-sized to large business. It's not the same as an OK Go video where you've got two guys in your house and your guys are playing with After Effects. It's a pretty different process. But I guess there was a lot of crossover in the pursuit of something that feels impossible. Just the process itself is very, very different.
Did you enjoy it? I mean, that was kind of an arduous answer. Did you enjoy making the film?
I learned a ton and I enjoyed learning a ton. I think I would enjoy doing it again more than the first time. Like I didn't hate it, but there was much less spontaneous creativity than I like. That it totally makes sense. But the way a film comes together is that like you have a lot of very, very, very experienced professionals who are very modular, right? Your production designer and your director of photography have to both be at the top of their game and will be working on a new film 3 months from now. Both, like they have to be able to switch between different things very quickly and be incredibly good at their jobs, which means that they've developed very specific ways to do things that are really, really effective, but also it's really hard to push those boundaries, right? Like what we're used to doing with our videos and our music is like starting with something and going, how can I push this until it surprises me? Like where's the point where these two chords, when you add them together, they stop being a third sound and they start being like an emotion. Like you look for the place where that thing tips into magic. And when people have been doing this film job for a very long time, they're very good at being effective. But when you go, but I want it to be different than you've ever seen before or heard before or felt before, they go like, okay, but how much time do you have and how much does it cost?
Yeah.
And that's just
Yeah, I have friends who are. I have a friend who's a Teamster. He's a Teamster locations guy, and he talks about the older crew guys and how jaded they are and how cynical they are and stuff like that. I'm off the top of my head, or is there going to be another Gore Kulash directorial effort? Are you guys going to become the next Coen brothers? Like, what's going on?
I hope my wife does not become my brother. That would be weird.
Well, yeah. Directing.
We're certainly eyeing the possibilities. It was very fun to get back to music where it's like all I have to do is whatever's between these two speakers, I have to love it, and that's hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also so exciting. You just like sit down with your guitar, your piano, and like make it go. And it was very, very, very satisfying to get back there. I've also loved getting back into making these videos. Like the videos we've made for this are really ambitious and I have loved it. And it has made me go like, oh, we should make another movie. So I will probably keep on going like around that circle for a while.
Yeah.
And I will say that like that film was, not to take it back to all the dark stuff we were just talking about, but that film was very much about that. It was like, it was about how the 90s was sort of the last time that we had this big bubble of hope that everybody really believed in, and what a weird delusion it was in some ways. And so it was really fun to play in that universe and to play with such incredible actors. I mean, Sarah Snook and Zach Galifianakis. It was like if having that kind of incredible talent on hand just made everything such a pleasure.
I would love to hear a conversation with you and Zach Galifianakis, just like you going back and forth on the phone for 20 minutes. That'd be fun. Last thing we'll get you out here, Damian, is what kind of father-in-law is Al Gore? What's that experience been like for you? Is normal guy or what?
Not a normal guy, because he's like a superhuman. He's like the best guy. He's a wonderful father-in-law. He is a wonderful human, and it is. I think I'm in a tiny, tiny percentage of people who can turn to their kids and just be like, "Yeah, be like that."
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Like it is astonishing what good things he has done for the world and this planet. It's just a shame that we didn't listen sooner.
Great. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I should go back, and I was telling Demi about Inconvenient Truth before we started this. So, all right. Thank you so much, Damian, for joining us on the show and the new album and The Adjacent Possible, or is it just The Adjacent Possible?
It's And The Adjacent Possible.
And The Adjacent Possible. I thought that was part of the title. Okay. All right. So, And The Adjacent Possible is out now. Damian Kulash, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This has been really fun.